Welcome everyone. Today we're tackling some major news that could genuinely reshuffle the entire deck in the global semiconductor industry. Huawei has just unveiled a new chip and it lands squarely in Nvidia's territory. So what exactly happened? Why is this such a significant development? And what could it mean for the future of Nvidia and anyone invested in them? We're going to break all of that down right now. Here's what we'll cover. A quick look at Huawei's new chip, why it's causing ripples for Nvidia, and 3 potential ways this whole situation could play out, and the key risks and opportunities investors really need to keep on their radar. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Huawei is making headlines again, but this time it's not about smartphones or 5G. This is potentially much bigger, a new generation of processors that might just challenge the tech world's current hierarchy. The company recently announced its new Kirin X chip series. Now sources close to Huawei are hinting that these chips are built using a 5nm process. That's a level of tech many thought was out of reach for Chinese companies given the current US sanctions. So how would they have managed to pull this off? Well, it looks like Huawei teamed up with SMIC, China's biggest semiconductor foundry. The belief is that SMIC used a heavily customized version of DUV lithography, that's deep ultraviolet, to achieve results previously thought only possible with the more advanced EUV technology, which is available from Dutch company ASML, and which Chinese firms can't officially get their hands on as of right now. Put simply, Huawei and SMIC might have achieved what many experts deem to be impossible under the current trade restrictions. So what's really grabbing attention though is that Huawei isn't just aiming this chip at the smartphone market. They emphasize applications way beyond consumer gadgets, specifically cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and enterprise servers. This signals a major strategic pivot. Huawei isn't just trying to be in phones anymore. They're positioning themselves as a key place in the race for AI infrastructure dominance. And that's precisely where things get interesting, especially for companies like Nvidia. Now you're probably wondering, is Huawei's chip actually good enough to compete? Well, early leaked benchmarks, and we should stress these are unverified, suggest that the Kirin X might not yet match the sheer power of Nvidia's top-tier H100 GPUs or AMD's MI300 accelerators. However, the performance gaps seem to be narrowing faster than many analysts predicted. Crucially and critically, Huawei's chips could be good enough for many Chinese companies facing increasing pressure to ditch American tech. Even if Huawei's chips aren't the absolute best today, the mere fact that they exist and are improving so rapidly is a potential game changer. Let's also consider the timing. The global AI boom is creating an insatiable demand for computing power. Companies, universities, startups, everyone needs advanced chips for large language models, AI training, and data management. If Huawei can offer a viable alternative, even slightly inferior, Chinese businesses might be tempted. Plus, Huawei has strong government connections. There are signs that China might introduce incentives for companies adopting homegrown tech, which could further accelerate Huawei's momentum. But let's be clear, there's still a lot we don't know. Production scale is uncertain, yields, the number of working chips per wafer, might still be too low to be truly competitive commercially. And performance at that scale needed for large AI clusters hasn't been tested yet. Another huge point, developing the chip is just one piece of the puzzle. Building a software ecosystem around it, drivers, frameworks, AI libraries, is equally vital. And right now, Nvidia holds a colossal advantage with this CUDA platform. Huawei faces an enormous uphill battle on the software front, but they've consistently shown that they're up for a fight. In short, the Kirin X launch is a critical moment, not because Huawei has already toppled Nvidia, but because they've proven innovation is possible even under severe sanctions. It forced us to ask, if Huawei has come this far already, where could they be in another 2 to 3 years? We'll dig into exactly what this means for Nvidia and investors just next. Alright, let's zoom out a little bit. Why does this new Huawei chip matter so much, particularly for Nvidia? On the surface, it might seem like Huawei is just creating an alternative for its home market, but the stakes are much higher. What we're seeing could be the initial stages of a significant technological decoupling with Nvidia caught right in the middle. For years, Nvidia has reigned supreme in AI hardware. Their GPUs are the engines driving most advanced AI systems today, from training models like GPT to powering recommendation systems and autonomous driving. The launch of their Hopper architecture, led by the H100 chip, cemented their lead. The H100 isn't just powerful, it became the global gold standard for AI infrastructure, and that included in China. Despite US-China tensions, Nvidia chips were highly sought after by Chinese tech giants like Alibaba, Tencent, Baidu, and ByteDance. Historically, China accounted for roughly 20 to 25 of Nvidia's data center revenue, a massive chunk. But here's the twist. Due to recent US export restrictions, Nvidia can no longer sell its best chips like the A100 and H100 to Chinese customers. They have to offer nerf versions like the A800 and HH100, which are less powerful. Meanwhile, Chinese companies are desperate for AI compute power to stay competitive globally. So if we examine it from this context, Huawei's Kirin X becomes incredibly significant. The immediate question isn't whether it matches Nvidia's best today, it's whether it provides a good enough alternative to meet local demand, especially as geopolitical pressures make relying on Nvidia harder. And if Huawei can fill that gap, even partially, Nvidia faces two major risks. First, a direct loss of market share in China. If major tech firms switch to Huawei, Nvidia's China revenue could shrink considerably. Second, this could signal the start of a broader trend. If China successfully builds a self-sufficient AI hardware ecosystem, it might inspire other nations worried about over-reliance on US tech, perhaps even India or the Middle East, and maybe even parts of Europe, to start exploring other alternatives. Remember, Nvidia's sky-high market evaluation isn't just about its current position. It's built on expectations of massive future growth fueled by the AI revolution. Any serious threat to that narrative, even a single major player out of China, could shake investor confidence. Of course, let's maintain perspective. Right now, Huawei's chip still lags Nvidia's most cutting-edge technology. Nvidia is on Grace Blackwell. Nvidia's software ecosystem is built around CUDA and TensorRT, and it remains unparalleled. For many high-end AI tasks, Huawei's offerings might just not cut it yet. But technology evolves quickly, and Huawei has shown remarkable resilience. Plus, the Chinese government is investing billions in semiconductor research and AI. Support for local players like Huawei will only increase. So what we have is Nvidia facing the classic innovator's dilemma. They're ahead, but competitors are catching up under unique circumstances. This isn't just about one chip, it's about a potential long-term shift in global tech ecosystem and who controls the future of AI infrastructure. The big question is, can Nvidia adapt fast enough, or will Huawei's momentum eventually pose a broader global challenge? Next up, we'll explore three possible scenarios for how this might unfold. Scenario 1 would be limited impact. In this version, Huawei's chip development continues, but they remain technically behind Nvidia for the foreseeable future. Yes, making a 5nm chip under sanctions is impressive, but performance, efficiency, and scale are completely different beasts. Nvidia might still be 2 or 3 generations ahead in AI compute, memory, power, and especially that crucial software ecosystem. Huawei might snag some lower-end domestic contracts in China, but Nvidia will continue to dominate the higher-end global AI space. The result, minimal revenue loss for Nvidia, leadership remains intact. Scenario 2, medium-term disruption. Here things get a little bit more serious. Imagine Huawei keeps improving rapidly, but not just the hardware tech, but also software, cloud support, and developer tools too. With Beijing pushing hard for tech self-sufficiency, major Chinese firms such as Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent might start shifting more AI work to Huawei systems. Maybe not because it's technically superior, but because it's the safer, politically favored choice. Over time, Huawei could capture a significant portion of China's AI market, potentially replacing Nvidia in government and enterprise deals. Even if slightly less powerful, Huawei's chips might be good enough for many use cases, especially with national funding and priority. In this scenario, Nvidia could lose maybe 10 to 15% of its total data center revenue, mostly from China. Still highly profitable, but growth expectations of the stock price would take a hit. Scenario 3, global chain reaction. This is the most dramatic outcome. Picture a world where Huawei's success makes other countries rethink their reliance on US chip makers. Nations like India, the UAE, Saudi Arabia are already investing heavily in local semiconductor and AI capabilities. If Huawei proves a semi-competitive AI ecosystem can be built under sanctions, others might look to diversify away from Nvidia, especially for sensitive national security applications. Combine this with ongoing geopolitical instability, stricter US export controls, and rising tech nationalism, and Nvidia's global dominance could start to fragment into regional ecosystems. Nvidia wouldn't collapse, far from it, but its vision of being the universal AI platform might fracture. Of course, none of these are guaranteed. Reality might be a mix or something unexpected could happen. But one thing is for certain, Huawei is no longer just a banned phone maker. They're an increasingly capable chip maker backed by significant government support, and Nvidia has to treat this threat seriously. So we have an interesting scenario on the horizon. If you enjoy this kind of content, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, I read every single one of them. Leave it down below. Thank you.